Former state representative Chris Asselin had held the Ninth Hampden seat for, I believe, 2 terms. He is considering a run again, and he's in the studio with us right now. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning, Bex. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Are you nuts?
No, I'm dedicated. Some people say I'm a little crazy, but my passion was being a state rep, and sorry about that.
That's all right.
And I love helping people, and I've been out now for 2 years. I did, some things wrong, and I am sorry for those things that I did wrong. I took responsibility back then. I went away, wasn't pleasant, and came back 2 years ago. My opponent, the current state rep, is I don't know where he's been, but I've seen him a couple of events back in 2009. He says that I was still in. He says, the articles are saying, was he still in prison? I saw him with a lot of people at a mutual friends fundraiser for the city council in Springfield, and again at the Springfield Neighborhood Council Christmas party in December, and again at our church. So
You've been out for how long?
Been out for a little over 2 years.
A little over 2 years, and you were in for how long?
I was in for actually 1 year.
For 1 year. And what was the conviction for?
Conviction, I had conspiracy charges against myself, defrauding the government, mail-in wire fraud, having to do with accepting gifts from my dad.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go?
I went to Pennsylvania.
Okay. And you were there for the whole time?
No.
Well, I mean, other than processing and things like that.
No. I originally started in Texas, but then I ended up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Now, again, this is Chris Asselin in the studio. 2006, you pled guilty to charges related to your role in accepting gifts from the Springfield Housing Authority contractors who did work in your house, swimming pool, paid for some of your campaign materials. And I'm reading this from online here. You were sentenced to 18 months in prison. Your father remains in prison. Your brother James has been out for a while. People I think have a pretty long memory as far as the public officials. I know that you have a desire to get back in, but do you really believe that people are going to forget why you went to prison?
I'm asking for forgiveness from the people. Since I've been out, when I originally came out in 08, March of 08, I had no intention of running again. And people had come up to me and in my church and the supermarket and where I work and said, geez, you were good at what you did. You were very responsive to people's needs. We have that lack of leadership now in Boston. And in the current state rep, they just have a lack of leadership there.
Forgive my ignorance. Who is it right now?
Sean
Current.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just completely lost it. And you know what, Chris? I'm a firm believer in redemption and second chances also. There are a lot of people, for instance, who are saying, well, Tiger Woods said he wanted to work on his relationship, and now he's coming back to play in the Masters. That seems a little fast. Granted, you've been out for 2 years. But you haven't been top of mind to a lot of people for 2 years, so their last memory is of the trials in your family. Do you think maybe waiting a little longer might be a better idea?
Well, I waited a couple of years, and basically it was people who came up to me. So those people have forgiven me. Some were friends and some were not. Some were opposed to me. For a lot of them were. I mean, I only got 15% of the vote back then, so I had 85% didn't vote for me, so to speak. So. Some of these people had come up and they say, you did what you did, and you said you were sorry, and I'm apologizing to them. I'm sorry.
But in reference to what you did and apologizing for it and even paying for it, do you still maintain that you never questioned any of the things that your father gave you or that were provided to you that led to the convictions?
No. When I received them, it started back when I got my house in '96. And he had given me wedding gifts. They talk about the pool. He had given me the concrete, paid for the concrete around the pool, some of the concrete. So it wasn't, I took a loan on that pool. So that's, some of those facts are not really, or the things that reported were.
It's an in-ground pool.
It's an in-ground pool.
You paid for the pool.
I paid for the actual
He
pool.
paid for the concrete around it.
Some of the concrete around it.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I mean, that. It's difficult to explain to people. I'm glad, you give me the opportunity to say that.
I think it's important.
It is important. And, he gave me gifts, no question. They were not all at once. They were spread over a course of many years. And I had no reason to question because they weren't, it's not like they plunked down a certain amount cash.
Right,
value.
but there's a difference, Chris, between a gift. Like I write you out a check out of my own personal account and I say, here, Chris, spend this for your pool. Sure. That's one thing. But if the money in my account was money that I bilked off the system in the Springfield Housing Authority,
well, I had no idea he was doing that.
Well,
number one, I had no idea he was doing that. The way I grew up, he was always when I was born in 1969, he was already the executive director of the Housing Authority. So I grew up.
But
you always knew that.
But certainly you had heard of the allegations, though.
I heard of the allegations after the fact.
Right.
After I was, they came to me and after the fact. So while he was there, I had no reason to believe that it was differently than he could afford them.
This home you're talking about, you've surrendered that home?
No, I own that home.
All right, well, now then maybe this is another thing from the paper you can clear up. And granted, this is from September 2006. Representative Chris Asselin agreed to surrender homes in Springfield and Cape Cod.
At the last minute, we were able to work out an arrangement, the government and myself, my side, that basically I mortgaged the home to pay the restitution.
What about the one in Cape Cod?
That was never mine.
That wasn't yours.
No,
that was your father's.
That was my dad's. Yeah. I take responsibility for, I take responsibility for what I did in that.
Yeah.
What was attributed to me.
Right.
What they gave me. So the rest, he surrendered that. I mean, eventually when he passes away, I would have gotten the house as an heir. But
you didn't try and go back and take patio furniture, did you?
No.
Okay. Because I'm just kind of curious as to whether or not
Frank Key
something like that.
had eyes on that stuff.
Mr. Keogh.